In this video, I'll be talking about why I believe cooking is very important. It should be a fundamental skill, like reading and writing. And I'm not talking about making fancy Michelin star food with purees and foams and this type of thing. I'm talking about being able to make a meal for yourself as well as your friends and family. This is nourishment. And with that, it has to do with being comfortable in the kitchen. So in this video, I'll explain 4 reasons why I believe cooking should be a fundamental skill, cooking is important, and that you should learn how to cook. I remember when I was in high school, one of my favorite classes, I don't know if you can guess what my favorite class was. I wasn't too good in school, but my favorite class was home economics, just like my mother. And I really enjoyed the cooking aspect of that class amongst other things. But the majority of the students in that class were female. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think a lot of guys stayed away from taking a class like that due to different societal norms that were established. Oh, guys shouldn't cook, they should do something manly, right? Only women should be in the kitchen. And I very much disagree with that. At the same time, in professional kitchens, you see a majority of the cooks that are men, not women. So why is that? Why is there a disconnect between them? And I personally think that everyone should have a basic fundamental skill of cooking, because we all need to provide nourishment for ourselves. Let's go back to a time when our lives were much simpler, when we were hunters and gatherers. So what did hunters and gatherers do? They had to forage for their food, hunt wild animals, and then they would bring it back to their tribe, and they would have to portion it out, clean it, peel it if it was like fruits or vegetables or something, and then probably make a fire and cook it, save it, and then store it. So this whole process was, I'm sure, very time consuming and took a lot of work, and it required the communicative effort of several different people. It wasn't just one person doing all the job. People had different roles, people had different tasks. But the point is, they all understood that eating took time and it was a sacred practice and it required a lot of effort. So they valued their food because they understood the process behind actually acquiring the food. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to have a meal back in that time. Bringing us to the modern time in which we live in today. And don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful for all the conveniences we have, and especially like to be able to grow up with a nice family in America. Like, my life is amazing. Taking a step back from it, we live in an age of convenience, all over the world, where we have things like supermarkets. So supermarkets are great. I love supermarkets. They have essentially everything, and it's packaged really nice. Like the fruits and vegetables, they're all clean. They all look the same. They have no bugs. They have no dirt on them. They're pristine. That's one component. Then we have several restaurants where we can get a high quality meal with a lot of care and effort put into it, just like that. As well as takeout and delivery, where you can get a gourmet cooked meal delivered to your doorstep. You can also get groceries delivered to your doorstep. You can get prepped ingredients delivered to your doorstep. So we live in an age of convenience. And with that, it provides a lot of benefits. There's also a disconnect with our food source and the process of actually cooking, because everything is just so easy. So we don't really understand the process. We don't understand how much effort goes into it. We don't actually understand the supply chain and how many hands are at play, from the farmers to the logistics handlers to the packaging suppliers. There's so many hands at play just to provide food for the modern world that we're completely unaware of. And with that, a lot of people are not cooking for themselves. They're just relying on other people or just ordering takeout and delivery. And it's great, and sometimes like I'm lazy and I don't feel like cooking, but at the same time, it's important to know how to cook. I think as a society, we're getting to a point of I would say massive excess. You look at something like a buffet, and don't get me wrong, there were times in my life where I really enjoyed going to the buffet in Las Vegas. People at the casino like doubling down. I wasn't at the casino doubling down. I lost like $100. Where I was spending my time was the buffet, where I really enjoyed everything and the selection and the variety. But the buffet is just too much, in my opinion. At this point in my life, it's just too much ecstasy. It's not sustainable. It's too much, and everything is presented nicely, and it's really cheap actually, because they want you to fill up on like carbohydrates. It's just too much food, and it's a lot of waste. With that said, let me dive into 4 reasons why I believe cooking should be a fundamental skill and is super important. Number 1, it's a meditative process. Hauling in some fruits and vegetables, fish, meat, whatever you have, and actually taking the time to unpackage the ingredients, wash them, cut them, look up a fun recipe recipe with some unique spices and then cook everything together and then wash the dishes afterwards, that takes a lot of time and effort. But in doing that, you really become in tune with what you're doing. You're aware of the process. You don't take it for granted. And then when you finally cook that meal, you savor it because you know how much work you put into it and you wanted it to be special. So by doing the work, you really can be empathetic to the process. So it's special. It has your energy. Number 2, it helps you understand yourself and your family. So every family has a beautiful, unique food culture. A lot of that food culture helps you connect with your roots. You can learn about your family. You can learn a lot about history. You can learn a lot about your ancestors. You can learn a lot about your language. For me, I wasn't so interested in Chinese culture, but I was always interested in food. I was food motivated, kind of like my dog life. When I became a little bit older, like in college, I became more fascinated in Chinese culture. And one of the main drivers of that was understanding Chinese food. So Chinese food really influenced my idea on identity. And when I started becoming more interested, I started learning a little bit more, and then I became a little more grounded in who I was as a person, and I began to understand and respect my family more and show more compassion. So it's all connected. Food, culture, there's always some unique special dishes from your culture that are really unique, and your grandmother or your mother used to make them, or your grandfather, and those speak volumes. Those stand the test of time. That can really create a feeling, an emotion, and a memory. That makes food more than just food. It's really special. And with that, you can understand yourself better, like me. Number 3, it creates social interactions. And this is a big one for me, right? When you cook, you eat with your family and friends. And like point number 2, they say, oh, you don't get to know someone until you break bread with them, until you dine with them, until you eat with them. It's the same thing like in dating culture. One of the best ways to get to know someone is to share a meal with them, right? There's a great social dynamic in eating together. And back to simpler times when we were hunters and gatherers, they all had a hand in the process, so they all ate together to enjoy the experience. And a lot of cultures these days, they serve things family style. I'm a big proponent of family style dining. There's just large plates of everything, and everything is shared, passed around the table. In Chinese culture, I especially like round tables because you can see everyone around the table. I think that's very important. If I ever have a restaurant, I want all the tables to be round. Even 2-person tables, it needs to be round somehow. It doesn't need to be, but I think it's cool. There's also something to be said, and I think you're very strong if you are comfortable in eating alone, but there's just something very special about eating with loved ones. So food allows you to do that, and cooking a home-cooked meal for your family or friends is something very special. If you have a parent, grandparent, guardian, or somebody who's cooking a meal for you on a daily basis or once in a while, consider yourself lucky, because a lot of people don't even have food to begin with. Real talk, I hope that the communion of people eating together never goes away. I mean, what's alarming to me is in this modern time, everyone's so connected to technology, like their smartphones, that, you know, when they're eating together, sometimes you'll see 2 people on their phone at the table not paying attention to one another. So that, I believe, is crossing the line, and you're not being present in the moment and enjoying the food, enjoying who you're sharing it with. That's important. I think a tip for me would be, when you're eating, is to just be eating. Do not be on your phone. Do not be trying to do work. Just eat. When you're working, just be working. Don't try to talk to your friend or whatever. Like, too much multitasking. So food is a connector, it's a social enabler, and it's truly special. I so much enjoyed planning group dinners. So for my restaurant that I used to work at, we used to have a holiday party, and the pre-holiday party was in Chinatown, planned by me. I basically reserve like a table or 2 tables and invite everyone from the restaurant, and I pre-order so many dishes, and it was a great time. Everyone used to bring wine. We put it in like rice buckets. It was a great time. So that's something to be said about dining with friends and family in a communal environment. That was point number 3. Point number 4, it indirectly influences you to eat healthy because you're mindful of what ingredients you're using and what you're adding to the food. You're mindful of how it tastes, the flavors. In the restaurant, they like to play around with salt, sugar, fat. These are things that make food taste good. It might not be the most health conscious for you, but when you're cooking yourself, you're more mindful indirectly, even if you're not, of how much oil you're using, how much fat you're using, how much sugar you're using, how much salt you're using. By cooking for yourself, you're actually, in most cases, being more health conscious. If you're cooking French fries all day, you're not, but you get what I'm saying. So you just listened to me rant about why I believe cooking is a fundamental skill. It's super important. But you're probably saying, Michael, I don't know how to cook. What do I do? Again, let me re-emphasize. You don't have to cook like a Michelin star chef. You just need to be able to provide sustenance, nourishment for yourself and for your friends and family. Lucky for you, there are tons of resources out online on the internet. There's cooking videos, there's cookbooks, there's all these types of things. You can learn how to make recipes, you can also learn techniques, you can also learn how to use the knife properly. There's so many resources online, so there's really no excuse. It just comes to practice. The more practice you have, the more comfortable you feel, the more confident you are in the kitchen. For example, me, I'm not the most handy person around the house, okay? I could change a light bulb, that's it. Don't ask me to do anything too much. But am I really not handy, or I just haven't really focused a lot of my attention on being handy and taking care of the house? I haven't really focused my attention on being handy and taking care of the house. So a couple months ago, our toilet, it wasn't flushing properly. So I went on YouTube and I researched why, and I researched how to replace it rather than paying a lot of money to pay the mechanic. And I went to Home Depot, I bought the piece, and then I looked on YouTube of how to replace the piece myself, and I was able to do it, and it worked. And the piece itself cost $20, and the time that it took probably cost 2 hours. So I think it was worth it, and I felt gratification in learning something new. So the same with cooking. If you're not so skilled in the kitchen, don't worry, okay? It doesn't have to be perfect the first time, it doesn't have to be perfect the second time. Of course, everything you make is probably still edible unless it's, really bad, but it's probably not. Don't worry, it's part of the process. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Have fun in the kitchen. Use it as a form of art. Use it as a form of therapy, a meditative practice. Once you start getting positive reinforcement from your friends and family, oh, this is good, then you'll have more confidence. But my hope for you, my hope for humanity is that we can all just be comfortable in whipping up a small meal. And that could be simple as just making a quick pasta, or making a quick rice dish, or making a salad. That's all it has to be. Just be able to provide sustenance, because if you do that, I believe we can not only live more sustainable lives, but we can also, be more mindful of our footprint on the world, as well as how we connect with others. And my last point today, you can really convey emotion through cooking. For example, my grandmother, my papa, maybe you've seen a couple of my videos. She's kind of a moody old lady off the camera, okay? But how she says she loves you is through making food for me. That's how she communicates love. This is a taro. We're gonna make taro cake. It's like a potato.
This one.
You want me to chit?
No. Okay. 呢度一嚿。哎呀！
哎，論盡。
你個 camera 唔執得喺呢度嘅啫。
You know taro milk tea? It's so purple. They don't put any real taro in it. No, no, no. Food coloring and flavor, artificial flavor, right?
I don't know. 做緊嘢唔好講。哎呀 ，bang it.
5-second rule. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay. 你 cut 咧，你 cut 爛過嘅，我自己慢慢 cut 佢先，好好味。
If your caretaker prepares a meal for you, they care about you. I care about you too. Sending you good positive energy. I wish you well. Go try to cook that dish, alright? Stop watching me and my papa cook something. Make something yourself. I want to watch you cook something. Restaurants can close down again. What are you gonna do? Eat McDonald's? No. Cook yourself. Just try it. No sweat. Have fun in the kitchen. I'm Michael Nicastro. Please like, comment, and subscribe to this video. Peace.